Go Buffs, baby.
It's crazy how fast things can change in a week. Colorado men's and women's basketball teams turned the tide on their recent slumps, winning 3 combined games in the span of 4 days. While Tad Boyle's squad fell at Baylor tonight, Jared Payne's team is inching ever closer to the NCAA tournament conversation. Welcome on into another edition of SBS Basketball Live alongside Trinity Ortega, Jake Chow, and Balin Wysop. I'm your host, Shane Holcomb. Guys, some wins from the weekend, a lot of positive, especially on the men's side. But Jake, I'm going to start with you because Jared Payne's squad won on the road for the first time. It was a big moment for them.
Yeah, they started off a little sloppy, especially in that Kansas game. K-State, I think, was a team that they really wanted to win. They felt like they had to, and they did. They took care of business, but that Kansas game started a little sloppy, and then missing 6 straight free throws to close out the game. Absolutely abysmal, but they got the win on the road, their first 2 road wins. I think that's a huge case for the NCAA tournament in March.
And we're looking on the men's side now, and Balin, I'll start with you, right? A really good win against TCU, a team that had some momentum coming into the CU Event Center. CU got absolutely annihilated against Iowa State a few nights before that, but then they kind of kicked TCU's butt like Iowa State kicked theirs.
Yeah, you said a really good win. I think the best win from the men's team all year, honestly. I want to give a lot of praise to Tad Boyle and the staff. They said after that really rough Iowa State game, they said they had a 4-hour meeting with the staff, looked themselves in the mirror, said what had to change, and they made a very massive change in the starting lineup. They put in 3 freshmen getting their first collegiate start in that game, and the energy absolutely showed. It was the freshmen. It really looked like they were playing with the energy and grittiness of freshmen proving that they can start regularly. So in that game, 5 players ended with double digits or more. They had 24 assists on 35 made shots. Really strong number. But the overall, most eye-popping thing was just energy. The team was playing with a different level of energy. They were clicking. I think the players responded to it. The coaches did. So the best Buffs win of the year, I think.
I agree 1,000%. That energy change was just insane. I think the new starters really brought a new life to the team. And just the overall performance, BD had an explosive night. He had so many good plays. And I think this energy change, like Balin said, just really needs to stay consistent. And we just need to keep going with this and have fun with it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, guys, Colorado didn't have so much fun tonight because, like I said, they just lost by 20 on the road to Baylor before we went live. But I digress, right? It was still a really nice thing to see Colorado come out with a lot of energy, like you said, Balin. They kind of controlled the whole game. They haven't really gone wire to wire all season. So it was a good win against TCU. We'll get into the loss a little bit later against Baylor somewhat. But, guys, I mentioned a couple of days before the TCU loss, Colorado lost by 30 on the road, albeit to a top 10 Iowa State team. Trinity, what do you think went wrong in that one?
I think we weren't ready physically. I feel like they could have came in a little more prepared and dominant, knowing that Iowa is a very physical team and they're going to push you to the limit, obviously with them being ranked. And I think that was something that should have put effort into more. And effort as a whole just kind of is a question to me, especially seeing how they did play and that they can bring that energy and effort from TCU. I would have liked to see that more with the Iowa State.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think this team really just got put on their heels early. They went down 21-3 in the first 7 minutes of this game. That's really hard to come back to on the road in a conference opponent and a ranked opponent nonetheless. So, when you have a really rough first 7 minutes with that starting 5, you look to your second rotation to try and make those adjustments. And I think they just really didn't. Second unit came out pretty flat. Didn't stop the ball movement. Iowa State was knocking down shots from 3, and I really just think the Buffs lost this game within the first 10 minutes.
Well, Jake, on the other hand, you are a women's basketball analyst for Scobo Sports here, and they went on the road, right, last week and won 2 games, right? They talked about the men's team struggles on the road. This team finally won a game against Kansas State and then Kansas. What did you see, and what did that prove to you?
Well, like I said, were they games that they should have won? Probably. I mean, they're kind of in the basement in the bottom half of the Big 12 standings, both the K-State and Kansas Jayhawks. So it felt like they were winnable games, but I think they came at the right time. You come into that game 0-5 on the road, and you prove to yourself, to the fans, to your team, to your staff, to the coaches, And then, of course, the players on the court that we can win 2 games back-to-back in Kansas in hostile environments. Allen Fieldhouse is not an easy place to play, even if Kansas is at the bottom of the rankings. And so it proves to me that they can win on the road, and they came at the right time because you look at the rest of the schedule, and they need that pick-me-up type game.
Especially, too, when they have some games coming up, and one tonight we will get into a little bit later. We'll see what the result is there. But, you're playing a really good TCU team this weekend. There's an opportunity for a win. And I know the predictions episode or predictions segment isn't until later, Jake, but the women are playing West Virginia right now as we are live. Can I get a prediction before we head on to the next segment?
So last time I checked, they were down 7 with about 6 minutes left. So if they can start at their shots, I mean, that's the thing about Colorado is that they're not a great fourth quarter team. And the Kansas game proved that they can close those types of games out and they can win in tight environments. This is going to make or break them. Can they beat a ranked opponent at home when they're down and when the games get tight and the margins get thinner?
Well, I'm happy you said that because it's a good transition to our next segment, guys, which is life on the bubble. But like you said, this team came out in the last 3 minutes of that Kansas game, and they were down, right? I mean, they were down by multiple possessions. They came back, they forced overtime, they won that game, which was huge. But we got to talk about NCAA tournament projections, guys, because the men, even though, yes, they got their butts kicked against Iowa State. We talked about that. TCU, though, quad 2 win, Balin. I know you're really big against the quad system here.
Yeah.
Which was a good one because, again, they haven't really had momentum recently. They lost 6 in a row before that. However, I'm going to start with the women's resume. And, Jake, I'll hand this one over to you because the win against Oklahoma State is now a quad 1 win.
Great.
Teeter on that. Mm-hmm. Baylor, for the men tonight was a quad 1 game. They didn't win that one, but they're inching closer to conversation of NCAA tournament projections. What do you see right now in that resume?
Yeah, so 1-3 in quad 1 wins might not be the prettiest number, but then you're looking at the teams that they have to play, and you look at where they come in the schedule, and it's perfect. You look at West Virginia, a ranked opponent they're playing right now at the CU Event Center. Then this weekend they play TCU, a tough opponent, and then Texas Tech, all 3 ranked opponents at home. And so you have a chance to kind of even up that quad 1 record. 2-2 in quad 2 games, maybe not the prettiest number, but the number that I'm most worried about is 1-3 in quad 3 games. That stresses me out, and I think if you're head coach J.R. Payne, if your team misses the tournament, you look at those games right there on the graphic. If they miss, it's because of 1-3 in quad 3 games. They need to close out games, and it showed early in the season how they couldn't close out those games. They dropped some games that they might have should have won.
And one of those, Jake, was UCF, right? Mm-hmm. 2 weekends ago, right? Yep. You go on to the road and you lose one of those games, and UCF's maybe arguably the worst team in the Big 12 Conference. So that could affect them down the stretch. But Trudy, on the men's side, right, Tad Boyle's team is looking for more of those quad 1 wins. Mm-hmm. I think the win, the win against Washington is now a quad 1 win from neutral site earlier this year, but they have some bad losses, don't they, as the graphic shows?
Yeah, the quad 1, quad 2 record is obviously very upsetting. Quad 4, the UNC loss, obviously bad. We should not have lost to a team like that. But I really think they just need to keep moving forward. I've noticed that the away games are a big struggle for them. So I think just having that next game mentality, but more importantly, next away game mentality.
Yeah, no, that is very true. I just want to say that they have a lot of quad 1 opponents upcoming. There was one tonight. We saw that loss to Baylor, so that's another one in the quad 1 loss. They also have a ranked matchup with Texas Tech and a ranked matchup with BYU. So 2 out of the next 3 opponents are ranked or quad 1 games. So if there is any March Madness push in this team, it is to happen right now, and these quad 1 wins will help them get there.
Well, it's almost like you have the rundown right in front of you, Balin, because you transitioned me perfectly into my next question for you guys, which is, you mentioned it. You're going on the road to Texas Tech, who's number 13th ranked. They'll probably be higher because they just beat a good Kansas team. Number 16, BYU, with arguably the number 1 draft pick in A.J. DeBansa. And then number 8, Houston. Let's not forget about that. That might be the hardest one out of all of them. But I'm going to ask you guys, can they win any of those games on the road?
I don't have a lot of confidence in any of them. Out of all of them, I do see Texas Tech being the easiest one, per se. I mean, our 3-point play, I feel like, can compete with Isaiah Johnson, but, it's going to have to be that energy and that lively young team with all the freshmen that we have if they keep that going. But, just next away game mentality, we do struggle on the road, but I think if we keep the energy ball rolling, it could be, if there is, anyway.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. I want to bring up one stat, and that's strength of schedule. So the higher the number, the better. And out of these 3 upcoming ranked opponents, Houston, BYU, and Texas Tech, Houston has a score of 53, which is very respectable. They're winning games against really hard opponents, only 2 losses. They're playing a hard schedule. BYU has a score of 33, also pretty fair. They're winning games. They deserve their ranking. Texas Tech has a score of 5. So they have a very easy schedule. They still have some ranked wins. They actually have both beat Houston and BYU lately. You have 2 losses at home. Out of the bunch, I think the Buffs have a chance to make it 3. Like I said, they're going to have to bring the physicality. But if there's a team to do it against, I think it's Texas Tech.
And dare I say, guys, and Jake, even I want you to chime in on this too, because, I mean, after the loss to Baylor now, you kind of feel like they have to maybe even win 2 out of those 3 games to, like, have a fighter's chance, which obviously is a pretty big uphill climb, especially when you look at the fact that they have momentum against TCU, and then tonight they look like that same team that looked against Iowa State because they weren't at the event center.
Right. Well, the Big 12 is the hardest conference to play in. It is so difficult to go on any given night. Any team can beat anyone, and it feels like this might be the case. So if I had to choose, I would say Texas Tech might be the game that they're looking at. But I think I see a team that's struggling for their identity. They've tried a billion different lineups, it feels like. They threw a whole bunch of freshmen on the court, kind of worked, and then kind of fell flat on their face tonight. So I think they're just trying to look for their identity. And if they had found it earlier in the season, maybe you look at that Texas Tech game and say, hey, yeah, that's a team. We know what we got. We know what's coming down the pipe, and we know what we can give them.
Well, someone who's not fallen on their face is the women's team, right? Recently, they won 2 games on the road, which was huge for them, and now 6-4 in conference in that tough Big 12, like you mentioned before the game tonight, on a 3-game win streak, right? So they're playing the number 20 team tonight. We can talk about that maybe a little bit later, but can this team be a true contender in the top of the Big 12, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe they're in that tier 2, but I think if they beat West Virginia tonight and can stay competitive, hang around TCU, they could kind of break up into that tier 1 and make a run for a Big 12 title in February and March. So what the number I'm looking at is 3. So they play 3 more ranked opponents, and then BYU was on the bubble twice. So there's 5 total games. I think if Colorado can win 3 of those games, they're in perfect shape for March to get in, maybe even in that large bid.
Well, the NCAA always has a lot of praise about the tournament they put on every single March, guys, on the men's and women's front. But let's transition into our next segment, which is we're sounding off on the NCAA because, my oh goodness, what's going on? No one understands the eligibility rules right now. Trinity, I'll go to you first because we're seeing guys that are in the professional game, whether that's the G League, European ball, coming back to play college basketball. These guys are in their mid-20s. What's going on? Do you understand any of it?
You know, it's very confusing to me. I personally do not like to see it at all. I feel like these players need to turn the page on their college days. I mean, they chose to enter the league. They chose to leave college early. Just because you may have eligibility doesn't mean you should necessarily go back. In my opinion, the moment you check into an NBA game, your eligibility is gone.
And Balin, I mean, that sounds like pretty common sense, but the NCAA is making it something that's got to be complicated.
Yeah, I know. I just want to say that I think there's something special about collegiate sports, and there's a difference between collegiate and professional sports, right? The NBA is the latter stage of college sports. Once you graduate, you leave college, you're moving on to the professional stage. It's every kid's dream to make the NBA. So I just think you protect collegiate sports for college athletes. There's a reason that every ending to a March Madness game is the craziest basketball thing you've ever seen because it's not the professional league yet. And I think there's, love within the game in that stage. So they're non-professionals yet, and I think that stage before reaching the NBA is arguably even more fun than making it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, Balin, about the stage before, and I'll take a little bit of a different tune to this. I think with the new G League players coming and fighting for that eligibility, I'm personally okay with that. As long as they have not played an NBA minute, I'm okay with G Leaguers because if G Leaguers can be drafted into the league, college players can too. So it's that tier below, that semi-professional type league that we're seeing. And I'm personally okay with that. But once we get into the nuances of, can you sue after you play an NBA minute? I'm lost there. I don't know why. And I agree with you, Balin, that college sports should stay in college.
Well, guys, I usually don't, am super opinionated on the show because my job is to host, to steer the ship. But this is my opportunity to say a couple words because college basketball, NCAA, simply put, what are you doing, right? I mean, Balin talked about what makes the sport so special, which is, when it comes to amateurism. And I know when it comes to the fact that these players are obviously getting compensated it changes that. What it shouldn't change, though, is a grown man that is 26 years old with 2 kids and saying, oh, well, I enjoyed college basketball 3 years ago. I got another year. Let's go use it. I mean, what are we doing here, guys? Because we're getting to a point where, again, these players who are not successful in the NBA see an opportunity. And, again, you can't really blame the coaches, can you? Because it's like, well, of course you're going to want these more physical, better players on your team. But it's ruining the sport, in my opinion. And it kind of leads into my next question, guys, is do you see this going on? Like, how does this get to a point where this is just total chaos and not the sport we used to know? Balin, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, just on the front of eligibility, I do have a little bit of a confession. Listen, I know what redshirting means, right? Like, I understand what it means. But if somebody were to come up to me and ask them to explain it, I'm lost in the water. I can't, just do that exactly. So maybe the answer is a transfer cap. You go maybe 2 times, make stricter rules around eligibility, but I just think it's a very messy stage right now, and I think it's not built up for long-term stability just for college sports in general, and that spans even outside of basketball.
I 1,000% agree with that. It is very messy and hard to understand. I feel like I understand redshirting, and I feel like that is okay. Like, you redshirt, okay, you have 4 years. And you go on, you either make it or you don't. But you just got to give the younger guys who are going through college to grow and to have their chance. And I feel like the guys that are trying to come back, you had your chance and you chose to leave.
Well, Trinity, at this rate, I mean, you're a big fan of the Denver Nuggets. We're going to have Nikola Jokic come back. I mean, CU needs a center. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, he would be great. But again, I'm happy you brought that point up, right? Because I think what's also makes this sport so special is because you get to see the development of guys who come in at 17, 18 years old and leave at, 19, 20, maybe even still 18. But they've grown so much over a season, right, Jake? And we haven't quite seen this to the level in women's basketball yet. But it's a possibility because those are girls who are already playing 4 years of college ball, which is a little bit different than the men's. But this gets me to my last question before I want to move on, because it's making me annoyed just talking about this. I will say, though, some of the guys who have come back haven't really fared that well, which has been an interesting development. But, Jake, since, again, these guys are being compensated now, do you think that makes this a more attractive option for NBA players to come back?
I'm going to say no, honestly. And I think that the compensation for a lot of guys is they see that big number, but it's because they can't get and break into the league, right? They know, hey, my talent, I'm not going to the NBA, but I know I can dominate with Bangladesh Dak on the court, right? So I can do that, and I can make millions, right? But I know that I can't go to the league, so I'm going to fight for 6-7 years of eligibility like Carson Beck, because he's going to be what? A 5th-round pick that someone's going to throw a flyer at, but he can make millions and take Miami to a national championship. I just say no because professionals are meant to be in the big leagues, and college guys who are getting paid that much, they're kind of in that middle tier. So I don't think it's that big of an issue.
Well, and I'll hand this over to you now, Balin. Jake mentioned it because the money's not everything in this decision, right? I mean, to come back, to be able to play basketball in and of itself is a gift, right? But, I mean, this is going to be an enticing option. You got to think for especially guys that dare I say that they let NBA players come back to college because of the eligibility rules. I mean, you're going to be dominating the sport theoretically, right? I'll hand this on over to you first.
Yeah, that is true. I want to go back to my point of saying that it's every little kid's dream to make the NBA. I haven't heard of a little kid that wants to redshirt their freshman year, hit the transfer portal 6 times, and play 8 years of college basketball. That's just not what I think people should dream about. So people should dream about going to the NBA. I understand how this is enticing for some players, like Jake said, about that balance of how I maybe can't make the NBA, I can make money in college basketball, but still, it's overall just a negative impact. Like I said earlier, same thing about long-term stability, just not setting ththings up well for the future. So. Yeah,
I absolutely agree. And with the whole pay, you get presented all this money to the NBA, even in the G League. It's not NBA money, but you're seriously going to go back and take the opportunity from younger players. In my mind, it's just the younger players, and it's really letting them grow and letting them get a chance. But I can see how it could be hard to let go of the game. Like if you do go to the G League and you are not performing as well for NBA standards, you don't want to let go. I mean, we saw how long NBA players stayed in as long as they can, and longevity is a thing. but it doesn't mean going back. Like, what if LeBron decided to retire at 45 and be like, I have 4 or 5 years. Let's go play.
Runs the Buffs confirmed.
Well, again, you talked about how some guys maybe struggle in the G League. They want to come back in this college option. You're not here physically in the studio if you're watching this right now, but the lights are bright in the studio. And, guys, the lights are a little bit too bright for these guys that are wanting to come back into college. Just hang up your cleats, hang up your boots, hang up your shoes. I don't know why I'm talking in soccer terminology. I digress, though. Let's talk a little bit about something that's more enticing and enjoyable, which is predicting some of these Big 12 opponent matchups this weekend. Jake, I'll start with you.
Yep.
Number 8, Houston, at number 16, BYU. It's a huge game. BYU has been better at home than on the road. Do they get this one done?
I have concerns with the way that they close out games, BYU. So that's why I choose Houston. I think they have that suffocating type of defense that kind of will slow BYU down, AJ DeMansa, and those types of guys and shooters. I think Houston matches up well, and I'm concerned about BYU's ability to close out against good teams.
Trinity, does Houston get the job done and keep their season rolling, or does BYU get theirs back on track?
I'm going to agree, and I'm going to go with Houston. They won 4 of their last 5 games. They are second in the Big 12. Their defense is just phenomenal. They are second in scoring defense, and I just feel like they're going to shut out BYU for sure. Defense wins games.
Yeah, like I said, this is a really solid Houston squad that is a defensive juggernaut. They lead the Big 12 in opponent points per game. Meanwhile, this BYU team scores efficiently. They're top 3 in the Big 12 in points per game, field goal shooting, and offensive rebounding. So it's going to come down to the other side on the ball, that BYU defense versus Houston offense. I think BYU, they're middle of the pack in the Big 12 defensively, so I think Houston exploits them on that side, and the Cougars get the win.
Well, guys, we just put up the graphics on the screen. We didn't have them there for a second, but it's okay because we can still talk some ball up here, right? And there's some huge games, and that's one of them. But the other one, and Trinity, I'll start with you on this one, is Texas Tech goes to West Virginia. Texas Tech is number 13 in the country. Who do you got?
I'm going to take Texas Tech, and West Virginia, their arena is insane. It is a home game for them, but Texas Tech is just on a roll right now. You guys will hear I'm going to go on a whole Texas Tech train tonight.
Okay.
But, I got them in this. I think they're playing well. They can close it out. Their offense is doing pretty good. I like to see them.
Well, sorry, I might be confusing you guys in this order that I'm going, but I'll go a little bit of a snake action here because Balin, this is a big game for West Virginia, who's somewhat becoming a borderline bubble team. Do you see them get another quality win, or does Texas Tech win on the road?
I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think, actually. 5 of Texas Tech's six losses on the year have come on the road, and this game is being played in West Virginia. West Virginia is a very disciplined team. They do not send people to the free throw line. However, I think the size of Texas is going to be too much to handle. They're averaging 15 more offensive rebounds a game than West Virginia right now. So for that reason, I'll take the Red Raiders.
Yeah, West Virginia has beaten Kansas at their home stadium, but, again, that's a team in Texas Tech who just came off a loss to that same Kansas team. They're going to want to get back on the track here. Can Texas Tech do it?
I think they do. I'll do the clean sweep, Texas Tech across the board. I do think this game is dripping in upset potential. I think that West Virginia, I would not surprise me. It feels like this is the exact type of environment that West Virginia wants, being in Morgantown against kind of a faulty team at times. But across the course of the season, Texas Tech has been a little more consistent, so that's why I have them.
Well, guys, getting into now our Colorado men's and women's teams for this weekend. They both have very big games for different reasons. But, Jake, for obvious reasons, I'm going to start with you on this one. Number 14, TCU, goes to the CU Event Center and plays Colorado on Sunday. It might be Jared Payne's toughest Big 12 game all season. What's going to go down?
Well, I'm a little worried because Colorado is down 5 with 11 seconds against West Virginia right now. So it's a good game, and I think if Colorado can keep it close, that's something that they can hang their hats on. I have TCU winning that game, but I think it is a game that being in Boulder with the altitude and having that kind of that motivation to make the tournament and need those 3 wins, as I said, I think that CU can absolutely pull it off, but I got to go with TCU.
And Trinity, this is a game that CU has never lost at the Event Center. They haven't played a lot. The last time they played in the Event Center against TCU was 2014. They played him in the Big 12 tournament on the road last year. Does CU make that 4-0 against TCU?
I'm glad that you point that out because it is a home game, altitude, and like Ryan said, there's that, or Jake said, so sorry. There's that like fire under there to make the tournament, So I feel like being home, the energy, and they haven't lost to them at home. And their home record right now is phenomenal anyway. They've only lost 1 game at home, so I think they can definitely run that out.
Yeah, no, this is a very sound, very balanced TCU team. Big 12 front runner right now for the women's conference, but the Buffs don't have a lot of experience against ranked teams, which is something that scares me. They're only 1-2 on the year. However, I think they could possibly get a win if they find an answer to their senior Olivia Miles. She's playing 35 minutes a night right now, leads TCU in points per game, assists per game, field goal percentage. She's a pure scorer, but if Colorado can silence her, I think they do have a chance to win it. However, I don't see the Buffs offense keeping up with TCU's pace for 40 minutes. I do think the Horned Frogs squeak it out.
Well, again, Jake, I don't want to steal your byline from you because after the loss tonight, it sounds like you might be writing a pretty big article about this TCU game and how just important that is, right?
Trust me.
So, I mean, again, Colorado kind of really wants to not just win against a ranked opponent, but also continue to move up in the Big 12 standings because they could get like a top 4 or top 5 seed in the tournament. I digress, though. Who's not going to get a top 4 or top 5 seed in their conference tournament probably is the men's team. You know, there is some optimism. They look like a different team, though, home and away. Trinity, though, they're at home this weekend. They're playing Arizona State. They beat them in Tempe earlier this year, 95-89. Do they make it a clean sweep?
I believe so. I'm going to take CU. They are also at home. More altitude is into play. And Arizona State is just not really showing me anything. Like, they don't wow me in any way, and I think this could be an easier matchup for CU, actually. If they keep their offensive going, I think just improve defense to hold them down, but I got CU.
Yeah, no, I just love this Colorado Buffaloes confidence that they have in this new team. I did think they were going to beat Baylor tonight. Although that's a loss, I do think they beat Arizona State on Sunday. This new starting five has clicked out of the gate. But I just think CU's offense is going to outpower ASU's defense. I think the Buffs win.
Well, guys, when you talk about Colorado men's team, right, there's some struggles there because the women's, they lost tonight 61-55. We just got the breaking news on your desk. That was incredible work. But Jake, who do you think takes this one? ASU versus CU at the event center on Saturday night.
Yeah, I feel like a broken record because I'm going to say being in Boulder helps. The altitude, of course, and I think that's a big part of this Buffs identity. And I think if they push the pace with the young guys, with that energy, and trying to figure out what their sets and what works, this is an easy game, I mean, in terms of Big 12 competition, but this is a game that you're circling on a calendar saying, we can beat this team. They're basement of the bottom 12, or Big 12, excuse me. I have CU pulling up.
Well, I kind of think that we're going to go into talking from the projections on the bubble to maybe the standings in the Big 12 for the men, especially. And that's a game that's super important, obviously. Again, I withhold my predictions on this show. The CU team did go to Arizona State. One of their first Big 12 games might have been their first Big 12 game and won on the road, which was really good. You talk about Trinity, how hard it is to come to Boulder in general, but ASU hasn't won on the road, period, point blank, in Big 12 play tonight. But that's going to do it all for us here on the third edition of SBS Basketball Live. Alongside Balin Weisup, Jake Chow, and Trinity Ortega, I'm Shane Holcomb saying good night.